KT sits watching themselves in their old video, quietly remarking on their words about how they'd somehow become more invested in the Killzone series at the time. But oh, did they not realize the extent that that would manifest. Remember how I bought the PS3 so I could play Killzone 2 and 3 for my Killzone video, and how that was a whole ordeal? Yeah, so that's become an even bigger ordeal. Before I continue on with this video, I gotta say, I still haven't played Killzone Shadowfall, but I sure as heck have played every other game at this point. Well, I didn't play Mercenary, but that game is just... even watching a playthrough of it almost felt like a waste of time. I also don't own a Vita, and I was definitely not buying one of those for the sake of one game. I made an exception for the PS3 because that actually felt like an investment. So it kind of turns to the fact that I'm not going to be able to get the Killzone video done in a timely manner because I did not realize what a roller coaster of a series it is. And I'm just talking about the story and lore, not like development or anything. I don't even want to look at the development because I'm terrified of my video being even longer than it already is. But yes, once again, much like when buying the PS3, I had to do even more for this series than I thought I was gonna have to. Oh, and yes, this video will contain spoilers, but only like a little? I'm going to try to not overlap topics, but I'm sure it'll happen because I haven't even finished the script for the main video. Something I have to have done by the time this one comes out. So I think the biggest reason this companion video needs to be made is that Killzone, behind all the shoot bangs and loud explosions, has a ridiculous amount of extensive lore. Honestly, I thought this series was going to be fairly straightforward. Bad guy attacks, we defeat them, then we attack bad guys and win. Okay, yes, that is Killzone in a nutshell, but then there's all this lore! So yes, the mainline games are the gist of the series, but even Liberation and this one are canon and cover some fairly big aspects of the series. Even if in the case of this one, it retroactively covers some of the story beats even though it comes out after the original series had been tied up. Why did they do this? I'll talk about it in my main video. Heck, if you didn't play Liberation, the primary story of Killzone 2 barely makes sense. Who is Evelyn? Where'd the nuke come from? Who are the dudes in this goofy picture? So yeah, I bought Liberation. I even had to buy a new battery for my PSP because the other one went kaput and my PSP makes this weird grinding noise. But the game still plays. Liberation is a game. I'll talk about it more in my main video. But yes, once again, this series has made me buy things I wouldn't normally buy just to keep the credibility of my videos intact. And don't even get me started on the surprised cast appearance I got in Killzone 3. Remember how I said I was playing this series for Brian Cox and I admitted I needed to do a video on the 3 games, and now I'm admitting I'm basically just doing an entire video on the entire series, spare one entry? So yeah, I think Brian fell out of this equation a long time ago, cause, I met another guy. I gave up on having a character I'd latch onto in this series, because after realizing Haka just gets yeeted out of the timeline in the disappointing cast of Killzone 2, I didn't see any hope. I also just didn't really want one, because, like, I don't need any more characters to obsess over. And yes, I do like Radek, he's fine. But I sure as heck don't like Vasari. My word, this man is boring. Brian, come on, please. I know you did this series like nearly 20 years ago, but why do people gotta keep making you play boring characters? I forgot what I was going on about. Oh yeah, this guy. I don't even know where to begin with Stahl. Oh wait, yes I do. He's voiced by Malcolm freaking McDowell!
We have rights! You just violated the Stockholm Treaty!
Stockholm? What planet do you think you're on?
I streamed this game, so I have my literal live reaction to how I felt about this when I found out.
I know what this nation needs. And I will cut out this
Holy shit, that's Malcolm McDowell! What?
So, to honor this,
I didn't know he was in this game. Hell yeah, let's go. Okay, I'm invested now. And this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Stahl. I didn't want to lose my mind over this man in the main video. I mean, I still will, but not to this extent. So I originally wanted to make a video talking about how much I loved Stahl and the overall implications of his character, but then I realized Shadowfall essentially neutered him and destroyed what potential legacy he could have had. I'll go into my disappointment about that in the Shadowfall video. The fact that the mainline lore of this series during the primary storyline has so much to do with him, and we aren't even introduced into his character until Killzone 3, both fascinates and confuses me. To give a brief rundown on who he is, Johan Brimstall is essentially the evil industrialist foil to Visari's evil nationalist military stuff, and the implications of what he is within the series makes him the most compelling character in Killzone as a whole. And to be frank, he's also, I think, the only reason I'm even continuing with this project. Killzone is a lot, like a lot, and a confusing mess at that. Due to the weird way the plot is delivered and the overall narrative of the series, it's nearly impossible to really understand what is going on. And I do realize my inability to follow the plot properly might be because of me and not the game itself, but I had a bit of help during the development of the mainline video, and trust me, we all had the same issues. So yes, having a character to latch onto has made this endeavor more doable. I don't even know where to begin when it comes to the amount of lore and random story plots you need to know just for the 3 main games to make sense. The gap between Killzone and Killzone 2 is so massive plot-wise that whole literal games happen between it, that being Liberation and Mercenary, and even then I needed the wiki just to make sense of it. Which I will give the wiki credit for. They did an excellent job covering a lot of this stuff, and even going so far as to preserve the original timeline that was on the old Killzone website, a website that no longer exists. I even went onto the Wayback Machine and tried to access it, but I couldn't get past the age gate or redirects. It seems it's sadly been lost to time. Man, I miss old gaming websites, those were so fire back in the day. But even still, with all of that, I had trouble understanding what was going on, and honestly, the gap between Killzone 2 and 3, despite only being like 6 months, is even worse because Stahl got looped into the mix. Okay, more on what Stahl is. Stahl is the head of, obviously, Stahl Arms, which is kind of first mentioned in Killzone 2. Apparently the factory you go through during the Corinth River level is a Stahl Arms factory, but for the life of me, I saw no iconography to actually point that out. Okay, yeah, so KT is dumb, but to be fair, I have only played Killzone 2 once. Yes, I did check, this part of the chapter is called Stahl Arms Warehouse, but it's properly fleshed out in Killzone 3. It's also mentioned in Mercenary. No, I hate thinking about that game, it makes my brain hurt, let's go on to something else. So every primary weapon in this series denoted with an STA suffix was retroactively given the designation of being made by Stahl Arms. I like to think a lot of other ones were as well, but I won't go into that. And this is cool. Whether or not they already had the idea of Stahl Arms already planned out and then gave the namesake to Stahl himself, I still find it a nice bit of additional lore. But the implication of this has so much more weight to it than I think a lot of people realize, and I love it. I love the idea that because this series retroactively made Stahl the primary benefactor of the Helghast military, this means he has a lot more economical control than the story actually gives him credit for. Not only does this man have primary control over the mining and production of petrocite, the main source of all civilian and military energy on Helgen, he also has control of most Helgen military development. Yes, Visari has his own company, one that makes more experimental weapons like flamethrowers, arc rifles, and even the Mauler, but Stahl has the monopoly on more standard weaponry as well as most, if not all, military vehicles. Big attack choppers? Stahl. Cute robo-puppies? Stahl. Freaking predators that jump at you with knife hands? Stahl. What I'm saying is all the cool stuff is Stahl's. He even has his own private military. This dude literally put out a poster like, hey, you want better pay? You want to have a 401k? Why not join my corporate military? We even got monthly bonuses and maternity leave. Hold on, present KT interrupting past KT for a hot minute. So I just replayed Killzone 3, and while going through the Stahl Arms base, I just realized that yes, Stahl is actually in charge of building Maulers. They even have Stahl branding on them, but for the life of me, everything says they're Vasari Corporation technology. So literally, Vasari just contracted out the manufacturing of his walking fortresses to a man who already has all of the cool stuff to begin with. Still just looking at Vasari and his homies like, hey, they're gross and weird looking. I'm gonna make my own military that's cool and has drip. Oh yeah, Stahl hates Vasari, like, a lot, and oh man, the reason why barely makes sense, but I am here for it. So this is something that's mentioned in the book. Oh, have I not talked about the book yet? Well, there's a novelization of Killzone 3, and I read it. Well, I skimmed through it. Here, it's right here, it's real, I'm not making it up. So they could have just made the reasoning be like a corporate rivalry gone south. The industrialists hating the military, you know, basic things for basic villains. But no. His reasoning? Stahl's dad, Cage, tried to take down Vasari after Vasari took power, and it didn't work. And according to Sev, of all people, Cage and Yorhan look alike. You know what? There's this goofy proto-Yorhan art that's hilarious. I'm slapping a mustache on it and calling it Cage. Why a mustache? I don't know. At this point, he might as well be an original character. But back to the reasoning. Okay, that's different. It adds an air of drama between the two primary villains. But here's where it gets funky. So according to the Killzone timeline, Stahl was born in 2306, Vasari in 2307, so Stahl is, you know, about a year or so older than Vasari. Vasari took power in 2347, the two now being 41 and 40 respectively. Killzone 1 happens in 2357, Killzone 3, Stahl's debut, happens in 2360. So between 2347 and 2360, Cage, a man who would be in his 60s at bare minimum, looked at Vasari and went, "Look at this bruh, I'm gonna go at him." And then got yeeted by Orlok, and apparently they didn't kill him. He just, like, died in prison or in obscurity, as the wiki puts it. Here's what the book has to say on Cage. Ahem. Prior to establishing Stahl Arms, Cage Stahl had worked among the canyon mines of the Melstra Barrens, maintaining the pipeline used to transport the vast reserves of petrocite from the Tharsis refinery. And he had seen for himself how the petrocite was at first used to as a power source was developed and weaponized by none other than Scholar Vasari. The very same Scholar Vasari who had told the people that the Vectans profited from their suffering, when in fact it was not a single Vectan who profited from Helghast's suffering as much as Scholar Vasari did himself. The very same Scholar Vasari who spoke grandly of returning power to the people while in secret bestowing power upon his associates. Cage Stahl had tried to wrangle ultimate power himself, but had been foiled by Vasari's associates, Orlok among them. He had remained contemptuous of the man's hypocrisy until the day he died. A contempt that was hereditary. What? What does that even mean? I know it's like a paragraph and probably in there as a throwaway to give Stahl, I don't know, motivation? As I stated earlier, this dude is an evil industrialist. He doesn't need motivation. But y'all gave it to him, and it had to be his dear old dad, so now KT is super invested and wants a game from 13 years ago to expand upon its lore. I hate theory crafting, but at this point, I have no choice. So how I'm reading this is that Cage used to work in the mines, getting all them juicy blue energy rocks, and he saw Vasari and his ilk being all like evil and plotting to overtake the government. Cage didn't like that, seeing all the young people doing young people things. Eventually, I guess he got enough money to make a company and made Stahl Arms. And who even knows how old Yorhan is at this point? Maybe he's like an adult or a kid, but that doesn't work for the timeline, so it would have had to have been older Yorhan and an older Cage making Stahl Arms. And unassuming the two managed to become direct competitors of the Vasari Corporation. And once Vasari did his whole evil plot to gain control of the government, Cage, not liking Vasari, saw the chaos as an opportunity to just try and take him out. And oh, and I suppose we could read this as that Cage actually cared about the Helgen and saw this new regime of Helghast as a detriment to the people. So Stahl, a grown man by this point, just let his dad try to take out Vasari, and then what? Vasari went, you know what, sins of the father, not the son, and just let Stahl be his main man when it came to weapons development? And yes, the book is canon. Cage's insurrection is even mentioned by Orlok to Stahl in the game. This is why I say the implications of this character are so bizarre. What kind of 4D chess is this man playing to where he managed to not only stay on Visari's good side, keep his company, expand his company, build a massive private military that is armed to the teeth, and build a giant super weapon ship named after his own dad, without Visari going, "You know what? I think he means to betray me." Stahl literally gets a seat at the big boy table, and he was also a part of the Red Dust plot. Something that, from how it seems, only Visari and Radek knew about. I know he's a cartoon villain, but this is ridiculous. This man literally has his finger in every single pie, and Visari is just like, "No man, we're cool. He said his dad was a smelly loser." I love Stahl, but I definitely blame him for the insane pit the lore is in. And I don't even know what actually goes on in Shadowfall. I'm explicitly staying away from it because to me, that's just a whole other can of worms I don't want to get into. Yes, I did ultimately just use this video as an excuse to talk about Stahl, because guess what? The Helgen are actually interesting. Heck, even Orlok is more interesting than half of our Shoot Man Boy cast. And I like some of the Shoot Man Boy cast, but Orlok and Stahl have beef. Interesting beef. And it gets relegated to schoolboy slapping matches. Just imagine these two actually going at each other. Might versus Mind. The Helgast versus Stahl Arms. Oh, quick tangent. So, I talk about how much I love Syndicate a lot. I even made a video on it. Sorry guys, I'm talking about the 2012 one, not the older ones. I'm a massive fan of sci-fi and like Shadowrun, Blade Runner, Deus Ex, and all those awesome dystopian corporate high technology series. I just love the idea of two megacorporations having armies and agents that go at each other and fight. It's an amazing setting that can be so well utilized if given to the right people. And that's what Stahl Arms is! It's a syndicate! That's so cool! I've made myself sad. I need to stop liking games that won't ever get revivals. I do still have hope for Killzone though. Like, come 2024, the first game will be 20 years old. Oh god, let that sink in. And I'm not even an original fan of the series, I've only now just become one. But honestly, that just proves that older series like this can still have staying power. Heck, a lot of my friends have even found a fondness for it because I've gotten so invested in it. I don't even want a new game. I honestly just want a re-release of the trilogy on PS4, something that was supposedly going to come out, but got quietly canned. Don't even upgrade the graphics, just fix the motion blur, put it in at 1080p, and get it running at 60 FPS. That would make this series 1,000 times more bearable. But I highly doubt that's even going to happen, because, well, you know, we're in the PS5 era now. I own one, and even I forget about that. I'm just so tired of game and hardware companies letting these old series die. Sony, you own the license to these games. It was one of your flagship titles. Just put them on PC or something. People would buy them. I know I would. This video is a mess, but I really need to get a lot of what was eating at me about the series off my chest. And even then, I know I'm not done. I am sure I'll find something additionally to complain about in the main video, and the Shadowfall one, and the one I'm probably going to be doing about the series as a whole. This is my path, I have chosen it, and regardless if it was a poor decision or not, I'm going to see it through. I will not be defeated by the boring Brian and the funny Ahihi man. This is such a struggle, but thank you for bearing with me. And if you found this video at all amusing or worth your time, why not help me out with doing all the fun social media stuff? I also have a Patreon and an art store where you can buy some of my homely wares. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. And thank you so much to these lovely people for their help on the video. Please go follow and support them in any way you can.